What's up, Airsofters? My name is Lane, and welcome back to another BB Warrior Q&A, where I answer your Airsoft questions. And if you want to get your own submitted for the next video, it's really simple. All you gotta do is leave a comment down below for a chance to be featured. So let's get right into it. Creepy Airsoft wants to know, if you were gonna open your own field, how would you design it? First off, I want to say, you've been watching my videos forever, so thank you so much. If I was gonna design my own Airsoft field, I have two answers. If I had unlimited money, if I won the lottery and wanted to have a cool facility, I would just buy like an ATV park. I feel like there's a lot of very cool facilities for ATV parks that can translate well over into Airsoft, especially on the event side of things. Like if you want the ability to have, vehicles, ATV parks are great facilities. Ben Franklin Range down in Templeton, Pennsylvania is primarily a ATV park. They also do some shooting stuff as well. The facility's beautiful. It plays amazingly for Airsoft. So if I had all the money in the world, just buying a huge tract of land that already has those trails in there so that people can bring vehicles and kind of focus more on the event side of things. Try to draw in national event promoters or, bring my own company out there. But if money was an issue, like it is for everybody, the way that I would design a field is I would buy somewhere that is relatively flat, that I could put up netting, like what you see at like paintball fields for speedball, that is, let's say like 200 by 350 feet would be my minimum. And the reason why I'm okay with a smaller field is I feel like you can get away with having a smaller facility if it's more dense, kind of taking that indoor mentality and making it into an outdoor facility. And the reason that I want netting, which kind of goes up on like telephone poles, is then you can put lighting up on top of those poles. I think like one of the things that most small to medium-sized fields don't have is a great system to run night games. They're always kind of chaotic. You have less experienced players. You don't have people bringing out their nods. So I think that by having the ability to have lighting into the night, not only can you stay open for longer, like you're not closing at 6 o'clock, but if you had like a daytime session and a nighttime session and maybe a special rate if you want to do both that's at a discount, I think that would be a really successful field because there's so many people who want that kind of taste of whether it be night games or what we call like the Milsim experience of longer formats. I think there's a lot of people that want the taste of that but can't commit to buying a $150 ticket to a game, which is totally, like, I get that. Like, that's a lot of money to invest if you've never tried those more hardcore formats before. So I think that really a way that a local field can shine, especially when they have competition in their localized market, is to do something that's different. I mean, that's how most businesses work. But by having that ability to stay during the night, to have the lights on, or heck, if people want them off, having the ability to turn them off would be great. But I think that having a somewhat smaller facility that is more kind of urbanized, like the field is built to have structures, because I feel like that's what most players want. Like you can go anywhere and play behind pallets and 55-gallon drums. So that's the way that I would design it. I also think that it's important to have a pro shop on site, have some sort of vending that isn't Airsoft, like food, whether that be bringing in food trucks, doing your own little cart sort of thing. I think that is some of the most important things that fields can do, and also recognizing that not all revenue comes from ticket sales, being able to sell Airsoft guns, being able to sell food and beverage. I just think that that is a very important thing for an Airsoft field. So if you can't tell, I have thought about this before. Sadly, nothing is in the works. But yeah, that is how I would design an Airsoft field if I was gonna actually look at it with a practical approach as a business that, has expenses and needs to make money. Nepa Airsoft wants to know, what do you think of the new PMG5 from Echo One? Is it gonna be a good thing or a bad thing for Airsoft fields? Now, if you're unfamiliar with what this product is from Echo One, it's essentially a budget or a featherweight, if you will, minigun. And I really don't think this is going to have a particular effect on Airsoft fields because Airsoft miniguns already exist. I think what's going to happen is the fields that don't have good rule sets that can't account for something like this, they're going to have the struggles that they've already had with other machine guns and other miniguns that are very affordable. This one in particular, though, I think it's not nearly as good as a lot of the other offerings that have been out there. Again, this is cheaper than a lot of those other options out there, but I think it's capped at like 300 FPS, and the rate of fire isn't as great as a lot of the other Airsoft miniguns that we've seen out there. So I think it's one of those things that people are going to get afraid of, and people are going to say like, oh, this is going to break airsoft. Like if you remember the Airsoft Innovations 40 mic that shot like 100 and something BBs out of a grenade launcher instantly, like people thought that was going to ruin airsoft, that like the entire gameplay of our hobby was going to change, and I never see them, maybe because Airsoft Innovations is out of business, but even like afterwards, I rarely came across them on the airsoft field. So I think it's something that people are going to throw kind of a fit about and be worried about, but I don't think it's going to have a huge impact in the way that we play games, because having a minigun, you know, there's a lot of disadvantages. Even if you have the rate of fire advantage, you're not aiming like a traditional rifle and, you know, having to hold it at your hip, you're just not going to be accurate and you're going to be a bigger target. So I really don't think it's going to be that big of a deal, and I think the product itself is kind of a gimmick. I just want to take a quick moment to thank our channel members for making today's video possible. If it wasn't for them, the BB Warrior simply would not exist. It takes a lot to keep this channel running, and their support makes it possible. If you want to become a channel member, there's some really cool perks for you besides helping out the channel, like getting a guaranteed spot in our Roast My Kit videos, getting a spot in these Q&As, special access to our Discord server, and even more. So if you want to learn about that, there is information down in the description below. If you're on PC, you can hit the join button underneath my username. But a big thank you to all those channel members. Now let's get into the next question. Maverick Ones wants to know, do you prefer airsoft games with a bunch of diverse kits and impressions, or more strict attire where everybody is wearing similar clothing? I want to say it comes down to the vibe of the game, because there's all different types of airsoft. That being said, trying to interpret that question, I feel like there's a lot of events where it's like you're either green versus tan, which works. That's how our games at Gun Gamers Productions works. But then there's also games like Milsim West, where it's kind of NATO, which is traditionally multicam, with some impression groups kind of sprinkled in that do their own thing, like the Germans or whoever it may be in their non-multicam camo, versus the Russians, which is just kind of, honestly at this point, anything East Bloc flavored works, plus M81. So I feel like it works for a reason, because you need that kind of IFF. Like you need the ability to easily be able to tell as a game, like the guy I'm aiming at is with me or he's against me. And I think that a lot of times players get upset when that's kind of broken. Like, you know, armbands also work in the same capacity for a game where, you know, there's a visual indicator, whether it be blue or yellow or red, that I'm on your team or I'm not on your team. And I think that not having some sort of visual identifier just creates a worse time for players. Me personally, I tend to like a little bit of variety. You know, for me as a kit nerd, I love being able to go to a Milsim West and seeing, you know, different impressions that aren't just American or Russian. I really got to hand it to the dudes who live in America and do European kits, because it's very hard to find a lot of that stuff, especially uniforms if you're doing like a high-speed kit. So I love seeing that. And I think that it just kind of provides like a special flavor to the game. Like there's certain events like the Broken Arrow events, which are kind of like Vietnam Sim. Everybody looks pretty similar because you're portraying a particular unit during a particular point in time, and that makes sense. If people didn't look like that, that would ruin the impression. And you know, for people that enjoy those games, that's awesome. But I tend to prefer a little bit more freedom, and that's one of the things that we go for at Gun Gamers Productions, my event company, is having, you know, the ability to, like, it's green versus tan, but within that, do whatever the heck you want. You know, we have people coming up with their own units because they want to have their like special, like they want to look a particular way, but still fit in with the rest of the faction, which as a huge nerd, I think is sick, to be honest. But yeah, I guess I prefer a little bit more flair, but I recognize that for some events, some that I would like to try, like Broken Arrow, you need uniformity for the scenario that you're going for. But I think a majority of airsoft games kind of allow you to do whatever you need to. You know, like wear what you own so that you can get in and have fun rather than spending a bunch of money on kit that you may only use once. Jimothy wants to know, what sort of optic setup should people run at Milsim West? Should we use magnified optics, and if so, what do you recommend? I think within your squad, having at least one person who has a magnified optic can be very beneficial at a Milsim West event. I think it's also AO dependent. If you're going to an urban facility, it's not as important. You're going to be able to see people fairly regularly, but if you're going to like a wooded environment, you know, like a lot of the ones they have on the West Coast, or like the Balcar AO or the Abkhaz AO here on the East Coast, I think that having a magnified optic definitely helps. I would prefer to have something that is flip side or very easily goes back down to one time, like an LPVO, versus say, you know, setting up like an SR25 or an SVD. Like I think that it can complement the rifleman, but I just don't see a point for DMRs and Milsim West. And the reason why I say that is that now with, you know, what's existed for realistically the last 5 years in airsoft, machine guns can go just as far as DMRs, and they're in full auto. And you're probably gonna be the dude who gets issued out the heavier BBs when they're coming around with it. So yeah, I think that if you're a rifleman, adding like a flip design can definitely be beneficial. That being said, you kind of get what you pay for with those. For the affordable ones, we took a look at the Pinty brand a couple of months ago here on the channel. I'll have that in a card in the upper right-hand corner. They're not bad for their price at all. I actually have one on my AK-12 right now, just kind of playing around with it and seeing how good it is with cheapo optics in front of it, seeing if like that really is a negative versus running like my AR-15 style red dots or stuff that's rated for using on AR-15s, I should say. So I don't think everybody needs to have it. If you're the type of person who cares more about their impression, then, you know, if it goes with it, cool. But I think having at least like 1 or 2 in the squad can be beneficial. And again, especially for machine guns, I think they can be very good on those platforms. So if you're going to buy like a LCAN or something like that, I think it can be beneficial. But at the same time, if you just have a red dot, I don't think you're going to be outgunned at all. That's going to do it for today's video, but before we go, I'm going to answer the question that everybody has, and that is, when is the next Roast My Kit video? And I am working on it right now. It has been a crazy summer hosting events with Gun Gamers Productions, but now that our season is over, I can go full speed into working on videos here for the channel, so thank you all for your patience. I've got a backlog on Roast My Kit right now in the Discord server, so we're going to work to be clearing that up in the next month or two so that we can get back on track. But again, a big thank you for watching today's video. If you want to have your own question answered, it's really simple. All you gotta do is leave a comment down below for a chance to be featured in the next one. But my name is Lane, and I'll see you all next time.